I used to have panic attacks. Breathing is like key, but Pippa is like just as important to me as breathing.
Animal lovers, welcome back to Rescued by a Dog, the podcast about dogs that have actually saved their owners' lives. I am Laura, and this season of the podcast, as I've mentioned, is entirely listener supported. And once again, there are two easy ways to support the podcast for as little as $5. First, you could just Venmo me $5 or whatever amount you want to send, $10, $100, at the handle Laura Bama. That's Laura, B as in boy, A, M as in mother, A. Or you can go to patreon.com/Rescued by a Dog podcast. Again, that's Patreon, spelled Patreon. So patreon.com/Rescued by a Dog podcast. When you join the Rescued by a Dog community on Patreon, your $5 a month will help me to continue sharing these moving stories. Today, you're going to hear from three women whose dogs made them whole. First up is Kara. Hi, Kara.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks for reaching out. I'm excited to hear about your dog. Hi, Pippa. Oh my gosh, her sweet face and coloring. Okay, So can you tell me the name of your dog and what do they look like?
So Pippa is a 12-year-old pit bull, and she has a really pretty color. People tell me all the time how pretty my dog is. She has like the little white paws and a fawn coloring, and then she has a really beautiful, like a golden colored eye. And I have space for her for me to get her tattooed on me. I just need to find the person who will do the eye color right, because I think it's the most special part.
Is she a rescue?
She is. I got Pippa from Austin Pets Alive. And I got her when she was 4. And our adoptiversary is coming up for 8 years.
Okay, awesome. What is one way that Pippa has saved you or protected your heart?
Oh my gosh. So I got Pippa because I have PTSD, or more specifically, have complex PTSD, which isn't as well known as PTSD, but basically, complex PTSD is like when someone is exposed to trauma for years and years and years. And so often that's childhood trauma. So I was exposed to a lot of childhood trauma. Fast forward to being an adult, about 9 years ago, 8 years ago, my psychiatrist and therapist at the time were both kind of like, you're stuck. Like, we've gotten you really far in terms of healing from your trauma, but you need a service animal, essentially. And that will change the game for you. And so I was like, okay, I grew up with dogs, but I never owned one. And so I sought out a trainer, and she actually helped me pick Pippa out. I went to Austin Pets Alive assuming I was going to see other dogs, and my trainer was like, I think Pippa is actually a really good fit. And so that's how I got Pippa, and I trained her for 7 months, and she's now my certified service animal. And she specifically helps with anxiety, because I have panic attacks. And she also helps with my overall feeling of safety. So the first time I took Pippa on a walk, I felt this just sense of safety that I hadn't felt. I don't even know if ever, because like I said, my childhood was very traumatic, and there was I never really felt safe. And then I had like stalkers as an adult. I had sexual assault trauma from several different men. So just being out in the world. And I also had my house broken into when I was home when I was 20. So like there was no safe place. But now I feel safe everywhere.
What does Pippa do when you're feeling anxious?
So I'm anxious right now, and I don't know if you saw, I'm petting her, so she helps ground me. Just touching something that's different than that, like brings you into your body, is very, very grounding. If I'm home and I have a panic attack, I will lay down and she'll lay on my chest, to also provide weight, and that's grounding. I had one just a few days ago in the grocery store, because grocery stores are very overwhelming for me. And so she comes with me because she's my service animal. And so I knelt down, she laid at my feet, And I just cried a little and like tried to touch her, calm my breathing, just knew I was safe because she was there. Plus I breathing is like key, but Pippa is like just as important to me as breathing. Oh my gosh, she snores, and sometimes at like the most in like opportune times, like we were in a training because she comes to work with me, and someone literally thought a human fell asleep during the training. Yes, and they were like kind of trying to look around to see which of our colleagues had fallen asleep. So she just falls asleep anywhere.
If Pippa could understand human English, what would you like to say to her?
Funny enough, I went to a store near where I live, and when I walked in, there was a woman reading tarot cards, and I had Pippa, and she asked if on my way out she could pull a card. So she did, and apparently Pippa is a little judgmental of me and thinks I make hasty decisions. And I was like, that is rude.
What would you want her to know from your heart to her heart?
Oh my God, that she saved me and she continues to save me. One of the things the woman said who pulled her cards was that Pippa needs you around, so you need to stay. I've been hospitalized for suicide before Pippa, like suicidal ideation. And so I haven't been hospitalized since I got Pippa, and I think it's because I could never leave her. She is my stain. She is my reason I stay.
Now we're going to hear from Erin and Penny. Hi, Erin.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. It's nice to meet you.
I'm excited to hear about your pup. Why don't you start by telling me what is the name of your dog and what do they look like?
So, the first dog I'm going to tell you about is Lucy, and she was a female brindle pit bull, and she had the white stripe down her nose and a white chest and all four white paws, and then she was just this beautiful brindle girl. And then my other girl was Penny, and she was also a pit bull. She was kind of like a blonde pit, we called her. Again, had the white stripe down the nose, the white chest, and the four white feet.
Why don't you tell me one way that Lucy has rescued you?
So Lucy came into our lives less than a year after a really traumatic loss. And within 3 months of each other, we had lost my mother-in-law to breast cancer at a really young age. And then we had lost my stepson and his mother in a car accident that was right down the street from my house. And as you can imagine, these were really life and reality shattering losses. And so when my husband says, or in fact, we weren't even married yet, we were just engaged at the time. But when he says, I want a dog, I'm like, you can have a dog, even though I wasn't like really sure about this whole thing. And like it is no lie to say that there are days when I wouldn't have gotten out of bed if it wasn't for the dogs. It really just changed our lives. It gave us something good to look forward to each day when you got home, something to focus on, and, just this sheer joy that they brought, the fun and the silliness. And for me, learning, because I had literally never really spent any time around dogs much in my life before the age of 25. And then it ended up leading to me wanting to get involved. I so didn't know anything about pit bulls that I didn't even know that there were people who didn't like these dogs or that there was some kind of stigma or anything. And I'm like, well, if they met Lucy, they would fall in love with her. And it led to me getting involved in the volunteer world, with getting involved with a fledgling at the time organization, where we have now provided free veterinary care to over 5,000 dogs in Baltimore. And I'm currently now president of that organization.
What's the name of the organization?
It's Be More Dog. And with Penny, I was actually out in Baltimore volunteering with my friend's cat PNR organization. And so we had this whole neighborhood where we would drive around and feed feral cats. And as we're driving through this neighborhood, here comes this pit bull running out of an alley, jumped right up in my friend's Jeep, and that was Penny. You know, first it was just this crazy story, right? Of like how I found her and like it felt so meant to be. And she was just my BFF. And Penny was the first dog that ever felt like my girl. So a few years after I found Penny, I found out I had breast cancer. And of course, this was a huge shock. You know, I have always joked, because you have to joke sometimes, right? Like, we're a heart attack family, not a cancer family. Like, we didn't have any sort of history or genetic connection or anything like that. And of course, with having lost my mother-in-law to breast cancer, this was a huge emotional thing just for my husband to be facing. And I was so fortunate in so many ways that I caught it early enough that there wasn't like a life in danger type feeling with it. But at the same time, I had to go through chemo. I had to have 2 different surgeries. I had to go through radiation. I was in active treatment for over a year before I could say, you know, I was a survivor. And that was a really hard time. And there's this weird look that people give you, and this very like pitying I kind of look, and I hated that. I just hated that look, and really was like, don't ever look at anybody that way ever again when they say they're facing something, because you just want to be treated like a normal person. You don't want to be like the girl with cancer. And that was something that Penny was just so helpful with, because she just saw me as me. And one of her favorite things in the whole world was taking car rides with her head out the window. And, you know, that became a really therapeutic thing for me, was to just jump in the car with her. It was actually summertime when I was going through chemo, and I could just have the windows down and just drive around, you know, for as long as we wanted on all the back roads. And it was just a really healing place for me. She was obsessed with having things in her mouth all the time. And so there were times when we'd go for a walk around the neighborhood and she would be carrying a slipper in her mouth. And I used to just buy slippers at Target like all the time. You know, like everybody in our neighborhood knew her for carrying slippers around. Sometimes it would be a sock, but it was usually a slipper.
If Penny could speak human English, what would you like to say to her?
Just thank you. Just, you're the best. Penny's everything.
Finally, we're going to hear from my friend Beth, who, like me, struggles with debilitating long COVID. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
This is Tempo, who just got a cut and looks like Falcor.
Tempo looks much cuter than Falcor.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
What kind of a dog is Tempo?
She's a Caton de Tulier, which we had never heard of.
She is so cute. She's got some kind of human eyes.
I know, it's freaky. She also has impeccable eyeliner. She's 13 pounds, which is considered a large Caton. They have slightly longer legs than a Corgi. Thick, strong, long body. She's got a giraffe's neck. She's long, but just very fluffy. She started out black and white in a lot of places. Look, she's holding my hand to not let me stop doing her ear. But because they have this recessive hair gene, she's turning gray and white. And one of our favorite things about her when we saw her is her coloring, her markings make a yin yang on her back. So the black like swirls around a little bit, and she's got a dot here and a dot there.
Tell me one way that Tempo has saved you.
One way that Tempo has saved me, we never thought, due to my illness, I have long COVID. I got COVID very early in the pandemic. April Fool's Day 2020. And I never thought that we would have another pet, any kind of pet, because I developed asthma, which you might be able to hear today because I have a little cold. And when you have long COVID and you get the cold that everybody else in your house gets, they're sick for a day and a half or two, and you're knocked out for 3 weeks. And then it takes you 3 months to get back to your baseline because immune systems don't work right. But because I developed asthma and pulmonary hyperinflation and something called mast cell activation syndrome, which is basically, when you get a mosquito bite and it turns red and it gets all itchy and it kind of swells and feels hot, those are your mast cells from your immune system rushing in to help attack the invading ick. And my whole body did that, inside and out. So I didn't go outside. I didn't eat for almost a year because my body thought water and food were a threat. And when I say reactions, I mean anaphylaxis. And not just every once in a while, but multiple times a day. And if anyone has ever experienced a mild form of anaphylaxis, it's pretty terrifying. But to go through it multiple times a day takes such a toll and is such a drain.
I know because I know you that what you mean is you would eat any type of food and immediately your body would reject it. So you weren't able to eat food, and to the point where you were for how long just able to eat formula?
I was on a formula only diet for 9 months and scheduled to have a feeding tube fit the day we left the state and moved. We ended up moving to Colorado on a complete, like my doctor said, they used to send people with TB to Colorado. I wonder what would happen. So we made a couple of road trips and I could breathe and I could eat. So we packed up the whole family, including the ex-wife and stepsons, and everybody moved together. Other things that people experience with long COVID is ME/CFS, like we talked about, which
means
myalgic encephalomyelitis or chronic fatigue syndrome, which a lot of people think is like, yeah, that's lazy people who don't want to do something, or I won't go that far, but it's so not fake. I used to have to leave a pillow on the floor between the 6 feet between my bed and my bathroom. So if I went to tinkle, I would have to nap on the way back, and I couldn't make it to the bed. So I would sleep on the floor. I kept a pillow and a blanket on the floor, and I would sleep for 2 hours because you don't produce energy. Your mitochondria, I call them now mitochondria. You do not, if you think about you have a battery for your entire body, people who have ME or ME/CFS, their batteries don't charge like a healthy person's mitochondria charge. And merely walking to the bathroom would make me nap for 2 to 3 hours before I could get back to the bed that I left. And if I touched a dog, I broke out in hives. If a cat looked at me from 3 streets away, I knew it. And it's very sad because we're a family of 6. We have 4 kids, 2 have disabilities, and they love animals. After I started to see some improvement in my symptoms because of a lot of life changes, like literally moving state and actually being able to take medications because I couldn't previously, we found out about Tempo and we went to meet her and we got to do an overnight in a hotel with her. And we did fine with her on the overnight. I did fine with her on the overnight. So one of the ways that she's rescued us and me is having this little comedian, Fluffball, who can be with me because I didn't think I'd ever get to do that again. She's so funny. She walks on her hind legs and she thinks she's a big dog who can protect us. She loves to play with the kids. And just having her around, we didn't laugh a lot in this house for 3.5 years. There just really wasn't a lot of whimsy or laughter. And everything kind of centered around what can mom do today? What can't mom do today? And now, if I'm having a bad day, she kind of steps in and she can be the one who goes outside. So just having a constant companion who doesn't expect anything of me except for me to be, which honestly is probably all my family wants from me anyway, but we put those pressures on ourselves because we know our old selves. I haven't felt good the last 2 days and she's just laid on me. And if I start to get up to try to do something, it's like she knows I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
So she'll just come up here into my neck and sit on my chest and look at me like, no, we're resting. I have her to look forward to. I know when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to roll over and her face is going to be right in front of me. And she wants her scratchies around her ears. And I can't get up until she's had her fuss because she'll be in a bad mood all day. So it makes me stop and assess how I'm feeling because if she wasn't in bed with me and I didn't have to take her through her morning fuss, I would just get up, not think about how I felt, and attack all of the things that I have to do during the day because I am a recovering people pleaser and overachiever. So there is no take 5 breaths and think about what you can actually accomplish today based on how you feel in this moment. Unless she's in bed with me and I have to give her her fuss. And I can stop and take 5 breaths while I'm giving her her pets and think about, okay, this is what I can realistically achieve. But also, there's a routine behind having her, right? Like, I can't always take her for a walk, but I can get myself on the back patio and get sunlight in the morning while she has a run around. That she brings these moments of pause to me where I have to just exist, and I'm not good at that. And she makes it really easy.
That is so beautiful. And one thing I've thought so much about since I've been homebound for a year and a half, mostly homebound, is that those moments with a dog are literally everything that's most important because they are love and communion and communication and laughter and presence.
Yes.
And if you could define the things that make a human happy, it's those are the things.
Yeah.
If Tempo could speak human English, what would you like to say to her?
Oh. The first thing I would say is you don't need to bark at everyone outside. It's okay. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I understand. But it's okay. We've got it from here. You don't have to take care of us in that way. I think I would just say thank you for being yourself.